Hello and welcome to today's lesson. I have a vocabulary lesson for you in which we are going to talk about some confusing words. And what I want to do is look at these different word sets, talk about what they mean, and learn some of the slight nuances between them so that you have a clearer understanding as to when you could use these words. And all of this is really just going to help you build your vocabulary. Now, I want to say that if you would like a copy of the lesson notes, the slides that I have right here next to me, click on the link down in the description. You can join our email community if you want to access them. If you are already a part of our community, then check your email. I've already sent them to you, as well as if you're a member, patron, I will post them for you as well. So this is interactive English. I want you to participate in these lessons. So I'm going to start out with a question. This is just a fill in the blank. Which word do you think best completes the sentence? So we're going to start out with these two words right here: persuade, convince, and thinking about the difference between these two words. Which word would you use to complete this sentence right here? He me that it was a bad idea. And that looks painful. That cat is getting ready to take a bite out of that cactus. So what do you think? He me that this was a bad idea. Persuade, convince, they're both verbs. And sometimes they can be a little confusing. There's a slight difference between the two of them. Excellent. As we go through, I'll give some shout outs. Great job. Lali, Kareem, Takaya, Vidya, Fernando. The answer is convince. So in this case, he convinced me that this was a bad idea. And if you're wondering why not persuade instead of convince? Because in a situation like this, it's really like changing your mind. Think about the mind. So let's look at these two words: persuade versus convince. So one difference would be persuade is more closely associated with an action, and convince is more associated with your mind and changing your mind in some way. This is information that I've gotten from Encyclopedia Britannica. I've included the source down there and the meaning. Okay, as you can see, it starts out usually, because sometimes these words are interchangeable, and that's okay. They're not always going to be used in specific situations, but sometimes it's better to use one word over the other. So persuade is usually to cause someone to do something by asking, arguing, or giving reasons. So the example I gave you: she persuaded me to give her a ride home from work. And she's giving reasons and persuading someone to take this action, to give her a ride. Convince, on the other hand, again, starting with usually to cause someone to believe that something is true. Again, changing their mind. The lawyer convinced the jury of his innocence. Now, in both of these sentences, I would say that each of these words is probably the best word to complete the sentence. I could say, yeah, she convinced me to give her a ride home from work. Again, you may use them interchangeably, but in this situation, because we're talking about an action, I would go with persuade. But I would say that often convince is more interchangeable with persuade. So most of the time, instead of using persuade, people may use convince instead, and not the other way around. And to demonstrate this, you can check out Ngram Viewer, and this is a great way to compare different words and phrases, and you could see which is more common. And as you can see, convince is a word that you're more likely to hear and use than the word persuade. The next set that I have for you right here. Okay, fast versus quick. Okay, we have a long drive. In an hour, we'll stop for a snack and then keep going. And I would say with this sentence, there is definitely one word that I think is much more appropriate than the other one. So, how would you complete this sentence? Would you use fast or quick? And I think with some of these, you're probably going to be able to answer them, which is good. Again, this is all about practice. But as always, I hope I'm just going to give you a little information and you'll learn something new. So we have a long drive in an hour. We'll stop for a quick snack and then keep going. Nice. Rafaela, Lali, Genital, Talal, Bianca, Fernando, Yao, Amani. Excellent. Good to see you. I'll try to keep giving different shout outs. I think you guys knew that one. Now, my question would be, well, why? Why is it more appropriate to use quick instead of fast? So let's talk about the difference, because both fast and quick, they are adjectives, or they could also be adverbs as well. So the part of speech is similar. Both of them refer to moving with great speed. But once again, there's a subtle difference, and this I've taken from Cambridge University Press down here. We're starting out the meaning with usually, because again, sometimes they may be interchangeable. When talking about fast, it usually refers to things that happen or go at high speed. So, train, a car, a person running. That example sentence, he is fast. I'm talking about the speed that he's moving. Quick usually refers to something happening in a short time. That was the example that we just looked at. We're going to stop for a quick snack. In this case, we're talking about time. But it could also mean occurring with rapidity. And this one, I think occurring with rapidity may be interchangeable with fast, but also it's slightly different. It's slightly different. Look at the picture there of the basketball player, and I said he is quick. Now, I could say a basketball player is fast and they're moving at a high speed. But in this context, I'm talking about more of a sudden, fast movement. And it's occurring with rapidity. It's sudden. They'll move over here and then move over here and say, wow, this person is quick. So there's a difference between somebody's fast and they're moving at a high speed, or saying they're quick. And it's like that sudden movement. To give you another, I guess, example, maybe a weird one, would be, let's say you're trying to catch an animal, and we'll say like a baby pig, okay? A little small pig. And in general, you are faster than the pig. If you're running in a straight line, maybe you are faster. But if you're trying to catch this pig, and it's going to move here, move over here, move over here, and you could say, wow, that pig is really quick. So again, there's a small difference between quick and fast in that regard when talking about occurring in rapidity, that sudden movement, or just that speed. Fast versus quick. Hopefully that makes sense, even with my weird example with the pig. Then we have these two words right here. Again, I want you to choose which word best completes the sentence. We're talking about amiable versus amicable. My friends broke up, but there was an end to the relationship. And with this one, there's definitely one word that you would want to use. My friends broke up, but there was an end to the relationship. Would you use amiable or amicable? Both of these words they're not the most common words, and I think sometimes they're confused because of the spelling in general, as well as the meaning, and we'll talk about that. But the correct answer, great job. Let's see, Takaya, Lali, Rafaela, yes, Vidya, Kareem. We're talking about amicable. My friends broke up, but there was an amicable end to the relationship. So these two words, I got this information. This was provided by Grammarly down there. Amiable Amicable. The first thing that I want to mention is the difference in pronunciation. Both words have 4 syllables. The stress is on the first syllable, but that beginning vowel sound is different. So we have amiable or amicable. So the difference is that and vowel sound. Amiable, amicable. The meaning is friendly and pleasant. So the meaning is similar, but the main difference would be amiable is used to describe a person and saying, well, this person, he's really friendly, she's really friendly, she is amiable. Amicable is going to describe a situation, such as ending a relationship. That's a situation, so we're going to use amicable. To give you some more context, I've given you some news headlines. It's a great way to just quickly see how some of these words are used in context. It gives you a better feel for usage and meaning. If you can't see them, it's okay. I'll read them. I'm having trouble reading them right now. But looking at the ones that with amiable, it says, Anne was amiable with Harry at the coronation as it wasn't the place to discuss royal rift. It's talking about, the royals, and you said Anne was amiable. The next one, Noel Coward was just an amiable jester, but a scathing social satirist. And the final one, in depth, AI and creativity, strange bedfellows or amiable allies. When referring to those two things, AI and creativity, are they amiable allies? Now, the headlines with amicable, again, we're talking about a situation. Avril Lavigne and Tyga are still friends after mutual amicable split, says source. Again, relationship. Chelsea reject. Third mount. Okay, Chelsea reject third mount bid as counter offer hopes to help Man United reach amicable solution. A situation, a solution. And then that final one, EXO and SM contract dispute ends in amicable settlement. So those are hopefully some useful collocations talking about an amicable end to a relationship, an amicable split, or an amicable solution, or an amicable settlement. So, seeing some hearts in the chat. That's cool. I've never seen that before. Maybe that's something new. Excellent. Thank you. Then I want to look at these two words right here, eavesdrop and overhear. Which word would you use to complete this sentence? A funny conversation on the bus this morning. You're riding the bus. Sometimes people are talking loudly, and you could say, the situation, a funny conversation on the bus this morning. Are you going to use eavesdrop or overhear? You guys are rocking these as well. Excellent. So in this context, you're riding the bus, you're in close proximity with others. You really have no choice sometimes if a person is speaking loudly. And in that case, you would say, I overheard a funny conversation on the bus this morning. Great job, Jessica, Joanna, Rafaela, Lolly, Manuel, Julia. The difference would be really eavesdrop is intentional, overhear is unintentional. So thinking about riding the bus, you could eavesdrop if it's really intentional. Of course, that situation may occur. But in general, I think often if somebody's speaking loudly and you're in a enclosed environment, you would then overhear someone. You're not really trying to listen to it, or maybe you're not really interested in what they're saying, but you would overhear this person. So eavesdrop, it's intentional to listen to someone's private conversation without them knowing. And you may often follow this verb with the preposition on, to eavesdrop on someone or to eavesdrop on a conversation. And that picture, hopefully it makes a little more sense. Again, that person is putting that up there. They're intentionally trying to listen to someone's conversation. When you overhear, it's you hear what other people are saying without intending to or without their knowledge. So you overhear somebody talking. I don't know if you can see that picture, but someone is in the room. These other people are outside. They're talking, and the person in the room overhears the conversation. And yes, I hear that. Intentional. That is a typo, misspelling. You can see unintentional. I missed that O in there, but it should be intentional. Thank you. Good eye, Milo. Then we have two words that I think you know the difference, especially if you see a sentence. But often what happens is when people are in a conversation and they're talking about this, I hear people misuse these words sometimes. Borrow versus lend. So I'm giving you this question. Could you please me a piece of paper? Which word are you going to use? Are you going to use borrow or lend? And when it comes to improving your speaking fluency and just using the right word, this is what helps. This is just practice. Seeing the sentence, the situation, choosing the right answer, and then you start to internalize that. Because again, mostly I hear mistakes in a conversation. Could you please me a piece of paper? The answer, lend. Excellent. Lalitakayo. Vidya, Julia, Sami, Jessica, Kareem, lend. So I want to ask Rafaela, so does eavesdrop have a negative meaning? Yeah, I would say if we're talking about a connotation, eavesdrop in generally, it's probably not a good thing. You're listening on, it could be an invasion of privacy. So I feel like often eavesdrop may have a little bit of a negative connotation if you're eavesdropping on someone. So that is definitely more negative than just overhearing, in which case it's unintentional. Good question. Then, so the way that I would say to think about borrow and lend is simple. Borrow, you're taking. Lend, you're giving. And to be more specific, I took, again, this is from Encyclopedia Britannica. Borrow, you get or receive something from someone with the intention of giving it back. So you're taking something, you're getting it, you're borrowing it. Last week, I borrowed her car. Now, lend, on the other hand, is when you give something to someone for a short period of time and you expect to get it back. And I took that quote from Shakespeare, I believe it's from Julius Caesar, friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears, a famous line, Shakespearean line. So hopefully, again, that makes sense. Borrow, lend. I think most of the time I hear small mistakes in just conversation and spoken English. The next one is right here. Revenge versus vengeance. Which one would you use to complete this sentence? You can see the Joker. Heath Ledger did an amazing acting job as the Joker. You may have foiled my plan, Batman, but I will get my... What? Am I going to get my revenge or am I going to get my vengeance? The words have somewhat of a similar meaning, but I would say they're, definitely distinct and different. And one is certainly more commonly used than the other. You may have foiled my plan, Batman, but I will get my revenge. So you're going to get your revenge. Excellent. Nice. Fernando. Talal. Lali Rafaela. Good. Yamani, Steve. So think of it this way. Revenge, it's more personal. And it's harm done to someone as punishment for harm that they have done to someone else. So one distinction I would make is if you are a good guy and somebody harms you, you want to get revenge. Okay, if you're a bad guy and you feel like you're harmed, you could also get revenge. Like this, the Joker is a bad guy, but Joker could also still get revenge and they want to harm the other person. Vengeance, think about righteousness. And this one I took from, gosh, I can't even see the source down there that I was using. It's from, where is it? It's just from this, like the talking about like a wiki difference page, the difference between a descriptive analysis and comparisons. But vengeance, think of righteousness. The punishment of someone for harming you or your friends or family, or you're wishing for such punishment to happen. Generally, I would think somebody who is the protagonist, the good guy, would want vengeance, and you have that. It's more righteous. If you're talking about like the bad guy, in that case, it would be revenge, because it's not really the punishment that they would be wanting. You wouldn't really use vengeance in that context. I wanted to include some collocations down here. Some of them are used with both, but you could get revenge, and you may follow that with on, get revenge on someone, or get revenge for something. You could exact revenge, or plot revenge, or plan revenge. And then some common collocations with vengeance, take vengeance. You could exact vengeance. Both of those, you can use exact with either word. You could swear vengeance on someone, or that idiom. It's not a verb noun collocation. It's an idiom with a vengeance. And if you do something with a vengeance, you do it with a lot of energy and force, with a vengeance. I mentioned already, and this is just to reinforce that point that I was making at the beginning, one of these words is definitely more commonly used. You are probably going to use or hear the word revenge more often than you would come across the word vengeance. And you're getting revenge as opposed to swearing vengeance. The next set that I have for you is imply versus infer. These are commonly confused, and I'm not sure why. The spelling's different, the meanings are different, but again, these are just words that are commonly confused, even among native speakers. I've heard people confuse these words. I had this, these are, again, news headlines, and I've just blanked out the word. So this is from, it says, report. Africa relations with China, Russia do not support for New World Order. Which word would complete that headline? Africa relations with China, Russia do not support for New World Order. Are you going to use imply or infer to complete that headline? So I think, good job, excellent. The answer is imply. Africa relations with China, Russia do not imply support for New World Order. Excellent. Julia, Takayo, Jessica, Rafaela. Good. We're talking about two different meanings. So when you imply, you state something. When you infer, you conclude something. So we're talking about implying to, again, this is from Grammarly, to suggest or say something in an indirect way. So you're suggesting it, you're stating something, but not directly. You're implying it. She implied that again, I'm missing a verb there. I apologize. I go through these lessons like 3 times, and I still, like typos and some misspellings. And in this case, I'm missing the verb to be. She implied that I am not very attractive. She implied that I'm not very attractive. Didn't state it directly, but just implied it. When we infer, we conclude something. You're coming to a conclusion. based on the information you have. So continuing that from that previous sentence, I then concluded, I inferred that she was not interested in a relationship. So she implied that I'm not very attractive. So I inferred that she's not interested in a relationship. And that was the conclusion that I came to. So I have another one. Let's keep going. Hopefully that makes sense. And these, I think, are useful words. But again, I've heard even native speakers misuse these words from time to time. Now we have a couple of homonyms. Complement versus complement. Sound the same. The only difference is the spelling as well. Well, not the only difference. The difference is the spelling and the meaning. The meaning is different. She added photographs to the text. Of course, you know the answer is complement because they're homonyms. But which one are you going to use? Are you going to use complement with an I or complement with an E? And this one, because they're homonyms, this is more for your writing to make sure that you know the difference between these two words. Because if you're having a conversation, you say complement, either one would work in that case. But if you're writing, spelling then becomes important. You want to make sure you're using the right word. The answer, I said, is complement, but we're talking about complement with an E. Very nice. Well done, Takaya, Lolly, Fernando, Dawood, Bag, Julia, trying to give some new shout outs. Sami, Yawamani, excellent. Gordon. So the difference, a compliment with an I is a remark that expresses approval, admiration. He gave me a wonderful compliment on my outfit. And they said, wow, that looks really nice. I love that shirt. Those are really nice shoes that you have. And giving you a compliment. Compliment with an E refers to something that completes something else. So you might have two things that really they go well together and it just makes it much better. And I gave you a sentence that is distinctly American. Peanut butter and jelly complement each other perfectly. A peanut butter and jelly sandwich, very common in the United States among children. This information was from Merriam-Webster, but just keep in mind, homonym, different spelling, different meaning, and it's important to know, especially when it comes to writing. The next one, deny versus refuse. This one can be a little tricky. There may be, I'm trying to think of some instances in which they may be interchangeable. I feel like once again, there's probably a more appropriate word that you would use. But let's just look at the sentence. My request for more vacation time was Which of these words would you use to complete this sentence? My request for more vacation time was... What do you think? I'm laughing because I think this is maybe I got you. You guys have been rocking this the whole time. This is the first one. Maybe it tripped you up a little bit. And again, this is confusing. So in this situation, my request for more vacation time, it's the context of work. It's either going to be allowed or no. So in this case, I would say it's denied. You're not allowing it. My request for more vacation time was denied. So let's talk about why. Good job. Let's see. Who is it? Rafaela Pilo. There's somebody, I think, again, this is good. Pink, Lorenzo. Let me go ahead and move over here. So denied and refuse. So deny is to say something is not true, right? You're denying some, maybe like a fact, or you're not allowing someone to have or do something which is what we just talked about. You request something and look, nope, that request is denied, and you say no. Refuse is when you say that you will not accept or you won't accept something. One way to think about this would be I didn't put them on the slide because I thought it might be a little more confusing, is to think about their antonyms. So if you deny something, the opposite of that would be to admit or allow. And you are admitting, yes, something is true, or you're allowing someone to do something. The opposite of refuse would be to accept. So sometimes they could be a little confusing depending on the situation. If you're talking about, I understand why many of people would put refuse, like my request was refused. And that's why I wanted to include some more common collocations with these words. So often, if we're talking about some type of request, the answer is like yes or no. It's going to be, okay, it's either allowed or it's denied. So you might deny a request. You could deny an application. You could deny the facts, deny the allegations, or deny a rumor. And you're saying it's not true. If we're talking about refuse, you might refuse an offer, refuse help, refuse treatment, refuse, you could follow it with to, refuse to believe something, or even refuse to pay. So those are some common collocations with this word. But deny or refuse, once again, I would say sometimes they may be used interchangeably, but there is that slight little difference between the two of them. And then we have say versus tell. And I've given you 2 blanks for this one. Okay? She me not to anything. What do you think? Which you're going to put one word in each of those blanks. She me not to anything. And then we'll talk about the difference and talk about why. Because I think when you see it, this is similar to what I was saying with borrow and lend. I think when you see something in writing and I give you like a fill in the blank, it's okay, I get that. But sometimes when somebody's having a conversation, I may hear somebody say, use tell instead of say, or vice versa. So good job. I think you guys rock this one. She told me not to say anything. So to say, think of this. You would say something, but you would tell something to someone. And that's really how we're going to use it. So when you're saying something, you're expressing a thought, opinion, suggestion, stating a fact. She said that she doesn't drink coffee. Okay, I'm just saying that this was a statement. She said something. Now, when you're telling, again, it involves like another person. To say something to someone, often giving them information or instructions. So looking at that, taking that same sentence, and we're just changing it around using tell. She told me that she doesn't drink coffee. So that's really the distinction. You would say something, but you would tell something to someone. Or you could switch it around, you could tell someone something. But when you're talking about tell, that person is involved in that. And once again, this was taken from Encyclopedia Britannica. So this is, I went over 20 words right here. Again, if you want the lesson notes, check out that link down in the description. If you're part of the community, I'll send them to you, as well as patrons, members. I'll put them up here. But these are the words from today that we just looked at. I think some are more common than others, and you probably know and use many of them already. But it's really just trying to fine-tune your vocabulary and understanding maybe some of these slight nuances when it comes to the English language. So if you enjoyed the lesson, if you learned something new, I'd appreciate it. I love seeing those hearts. Hit that like button. It lets me know that okay, this information is useful. Maybe in the future I can do another lesson on confusing words because there are many of them. English has so many different vocabulary words, many with the same meaning, but the usage might be a little different, and that's when those slight nuances come into play. But I want to say thank you for joining me, Vicky, Gustav. It's good to see you. Thanks for being here. Lolly, good to see you. Takayo, trying to get to like our members, patrons. Rafaela, Yao, Amani, thanks for being here. Fernando, Ursula, Tanvi, Takayo, I don't know, maybe I already said your name. But anyway, good. Thanks for joining. I hope that you all have a wonderful rest of the day. And of course, I will be back in the near future with another lesson to help you continue improving